I want to share some information with you I've learned years ago about happiness. You might call it fulfillment. I think there's a difference. Happiness is a little more short term, a little more good feeling at the end of the day. But I learned about this and I've slowly ingrained it in my life and thought about it in all the different times when I'm not happy versus when I'm happy, when I'm feeling good, when I'm not feeling good, especially like at the end of the day. Like what made this day successful or good? How can I appreciate it? That kind of work. It's really powerful. So the four ingredients, the four pieces, the four elements, I guess, of happiness, in my opinion, and this comes from the research. I didn't make this up. It's there's a lot of different ways to describe it, but I think that these work well. So number one, perceived progress. So perceived progress. Do I feel like I'm progressing towards something? You know, this is one of the reasons goals are so powerful, because when we have goals, we are seeing where we're going. We are pushing ourselves towards something, and there's good feelings in that. It feels good to do that. You know, it can be a simple example like mowing the lawn. When you mow the lawn, sometimes at the end of that, you get a good feeling of accomplishment, right? You actually got to see what you do. This is also a challenge sometimes when I'm developing leaders, because in leadership, they're going from individual contribution into leadership. It's about others contributing and them getting the most out of the people that they have working for them. So, or leading, that they're leading. Not that you're trying to use them up, but they're trying to use their abilities to the best of their ability so that everybody's feeling perceived progress, right? They're making their way towards goals. So this is a very powerful element to happiness. Excuse me. If you at the end of the day, if you think back to your day and whether you felt good or bad or not, I bet this is a contributor to that. Even if it's just spending time with your family and your kids, I mean, that's not a bad thing. Obviously, that's a great thing. And there's progress in that. There's relationships, there's development. All that's very important and very powerful. So perceived progress, number one, not necessarily in any order here. Number two is perceived control. Number two is about feeling like it's related to perceived progress, but it's feeling in control of the situation of your life, of what's going on, and it's powerful to know that you can affect things. They did a research study on the volume of your stereo in the car when you're driving, and it's an intense kind of in-depth research. It's not simple, so I won't be able to go into a lot of detail with it. But basically, if you had control over the volume of your stereo or your music, you felt better about it, even if the sound was the same, isolating for all the other variables. So control of anything, feeling like you're in some control. That's why parenting can be very difficult, right? Because our kids are not always in our control. We want them to be in our control. We want them to grow into their own people. But at the same time, we don't want them to go too far. And that too far is always based on our opinions, our thoughts. And when that's the case, it doesn't work as well because they are their own people. We see that coming out of the womb. They have different personalities. They want different things. And that's just going to continue. So number two, perceived control of happiness. The third thing is the number and depth of connections with people. So how many people you have in your life and the depth of those connections. So it's a combination of both, right? Some of us don't have a lot of people that we're in deep relationship with in our lives. We have a handful of friends and we're good with that. Other people want hundreds of friends and they just keep in touch with everybody. I've got a friend like that that's really good at that. He's very good at that. And that's great. That's not really me. I wish it was sometimes. I like a lot of friends. I just have a tough time keeping up with all of them. I'm a little more introverted than extroverted. So it depends. But my relationships that I have are very deep. At least that's my opinion. I try to make them deep, and that's who I really resonate with. That's who the people I really keep in touch with and enjoy. So that number of relationships and depth of connection with those people is the third main ingredient of happiness. And finally, number 4 is being part of something larger than yourself. So this is where spirituality or God or religion might come into play for you. I'm not necessarily a religious person, but I'm very spiritual and believe in powers outside of myself or that I'm unaware of. So I'm still playing with that and figuring that out. But being part of something. In leadership, we talk about that as being part of a company that has a purpose, cause, and passion that I resonate with, that I like working for. If you're going to work for someone else, which is fine, I work for myself, but if you're working for someone else, make sure that their cause and passion is similar to yours. You know, we see a lot of that in the news lately where companies take a stand on something. And I see that in my employees of the past and with my clients now, that if they get out of line with that, with their employer, if they're not really fitting with that employer, they're doing things that are, in their opinion, not consistent with the purpose, cause, and passion, it just gets all out of whack, and they are going to lose happiness because they're not feeling a part of something that's larger than themselves. I mean, that's the great part of being a part of a great big organization. I don't get that as a small business, but as a big organization, I hope you have that alignment with your company, because if you do, you're going to feel more happiness and feeling like you're contributing to something that makes a difference. So that's a little bit on happiness. I love to talk about it. Put comments down below and or reach out to me. Happy to have a discussion around it. And I hope that helps. Have a good one. Thank you.